Then Sports Central, be giving you guys our 2024 season predictions for the Arkansas Razorbacks, a team that went 4-8 overall in the 2023 season. This team has had some success in recent years, but it was not in 2023. This team was a bit disappointing last season. How will this team be in 2024, and what can we expect out of the Razorbacks in this upcoming season? That's what we'll be talking about here today. We'll be looking at the players this team will be losing and returning and predict their schedule top to bottom in this video. So with that, let's get started with a quick recap of 2023. Once again, the record being 4-8. Just a really challenging season from the start. This team started 2-0, but then went on a 6-game losing streak. This team was 2-6 going into November. But in reality, when you look at the games that this team played and the losses that they took, this could have been a 4-4, 5-3 team going into November. It was just the close losses that really piled up on this team. I mean, you look at that 6-game losing streak, 5 of 6 games there were within a score for this team. The one exception was the Texas A&M game, which this team lost by 12. But otherwise, I mean, a touchdown loss to BYU. They lost by 3 to LSU, which LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama, all 3 teams were strong teams last season, really tough places to play as well. This team kept it competitive in all 3 of those games, but they lost within a score. And in the end, because of that, I mean, this team was 2-6 going into November. And I mean, they beat Florida overtime, beat FIU as well, but that's just not enough to get to a bowl game. And in the end, this team took a couple of ugly losses in November against Auburn and Mizzou. So, I mean, it's just that stretch in the middle of the season, losing 6 straight games. The close losses really came back to bite this team, and that's, in the end, kind of the story of the 2023 season for Arkansas. But with that, let's look forward to 2024 now with your roster preview. KJ Jefferson transferring out, same with Jacoby Criswell. So the quarterback situation should be a lot different in 2024. Taylor Green coming in from Boise State. He's expected to be the starter. This is a guy that definitely shows potential, but he never really played at a very high level at Boise State. I mean, last season, 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns over 9 picks, a 57% completion rate. He is a dual threat quarterback, which does help his case. 400 yards of rushing last season and 9 touchdowns. But, I mean, he's jumping from the Mountain West to the SEC, which is a huge jump. I mean, the SEC is filled with brutal defenses. It's going to be a whole different animal for Taylor Green. So we'll see how he fits into Arkansas. He might get to Arkansas and be a really good quarterback. This is still a guy that's pretty young. But there is questions, I would imagine, still behind him. Looking forward to 2024. But Rashad Dubinian's coming back, the lead in the backfield last season. A.J. Green's gone. Same with Raheem Sanders and Isaiah Agustave. So Dubinian's coming back, which is good. But the backfield, I would say, lacks a bit of depth. Looking forward to 2024. The receiving core, though, looks pretty good, I would say. Andrew Armstrong coming back. Same with Isaac Tisla, and then Luke Haas, who was the top tight end for this team. So top 3 in receiving are coming back, and you also can't forget about Jaquindon Jackson coming in from the transfer portal. So he's a running back for this upcoming season. So this offense shows potential, I would say, but there's definitely a few questions. I would say the biggest question for me is Taylor Green. How good is he really going to be, especially in a much tougher conference in the SEC, facing much tougher defenses? But he does have a pretty strong receiving core to work with, and it's going to be a receiving core with experience, which is definitely something that he's going to need. Looking forward to 2024. But you lose 3 on the O-line, 2 on the D-line, 4 linebackers, and then 3 in the secondary. That's really where I'm concerned as well, is the fact this team is going to be pretty inexperienced when it comes to defense, losing a lot of your key players from last season. You have added a lot of players from the transfer portal as well, but I mean, only a couple of guys are expected to be starters from the portal in 2024. So, I mean, this is a team that's got a lot of question marks, I would say, looking forward to the upcoming season. But it is a team that I see potential and I see upside here, but there's definitely a few variables as well that need to be answered and can only be answered once we get to this season. But your transfer portal and recruiting, mentioned KJ Jefferson off to UCF, Jacoby Criswell off to North Carolina. Both guys are expected to be starters in 2024. So, it'll be interesting to see how both players fare out, as especially KJ Jefferson had a big impact on this team the past few years. Taylor Green coming in from Boise State, Raheem Sanders off to South Carolina, got Jaquindon Jackson coming in from Utah. Expect him to have a big impact once again. And then A.J. Green, Agustave both gone. And then you also got Rodney Hill coming in from the backfield. Dominique Jackson's off to TCU. You bring in Three players here from the transfer portal: Carmona, Blackstock, and Nichols. All three of these guys for the O-line expected to be starters. Tarian Carter, defensive lineman, off to Colorado. Same with Chris Paul off to Ole Miss. And then Xavier Sori, he's expected to be a starter this season, coming in from Georgia. That was a huge pickup there. You also bring in Denico Slaughter from Tennessee, expected to be a starter in the backfield this season. So this team's been pretty active in the transfer portal. They have added several key players, which is huge, but at the same time, they have lost a few. But recruiting-wise, 30th in the country, which you would say isn't bad, but that is 15th out of 16 in the SEC this season. So, I mean, that just kind of puts it into perspective how competitive the SEC is. And that's why I got this team at a 5 on the future forecast. I feel like, I mean, Sam Pittman has had success with Arkansas. A couple of years ago in 2021, this was a 9-win team. They were also pretty strong in 2022 as well. Last season, that was a big disappointment. So it's going to be interesting to see what this team looks like after 2024, especially if it's a down season. Does Sam Pittman stick around, or does this team move on? But I feel like Pittman's had success with this team. He can do it again. It's just a matter of obviously retaining talent and also bringing in strong recruiting classes, which as of now, Arkansas is not doing. But with that, let's take a look at the schedule now, looking forward to 2024. And this is no walk in the park for Arkansas, that's for sure. UAP being week 1. This is a pretty easy one, neutral location in Little Rock. You got that on a Thursday night there. And then week 2, you go to Oklahoma State. I would say Oklahoma State should be one of the true contenders in the Big 12. So that's no guaranteed win there, that's for sure, especially going on the road. UAB in week 3, then you got Auburn on the road week 4. Texas A&M down in Jerry's World there in late September. And then you got Tennessee, LSU, and Mississippi State in October. Ole Miss, Texas, Louisiana, Tech, and Mizzou in November. So this is a pretty difficult schedule for Arkansas. There's no line there. You look at the non-conference, having to play Oklahoma State on the road. I mean, having to face off against Auburn, who should be pretty strong. Tennessee is going to be good. LSU is going to be good. Texas A&M could be good. Ole Miss and Texas, Mizzou, all three of them could be national contenders. So it's a difficult schedule, that's for sure. But looking at the first month or so, I think this team goes 2-2 in the first 4. You beat UAPB and UAB, no problem. Oklahoma State, though, I think going on the road here is really, I mean, this is a chance for a really solid win here for Arkansas early in the season. But I do think the Cowboys find a way to win there. It's going to be close matchup. I think that Arkansas hangs in there, but Oklahoma State I do think is just the better team there. I do got to favor them in the end. Auburn on the road as well. They're kind of a similar situation to Okie State. Really good chance for a nice win, but Auburn could be a solid team this upcoming season. I see them right around 8 wins probably, so I do think you drop that one as well. So 2-2 going into the Texas A&M game. This is where I do think you pick up a pretty nice win. You lost to them by 12 last season. Do think you beat the Aggies this season. A pretty nice win here if you can get it done. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, new situation for them. There's going to be some bumps in the road, I really do think, for Texas A&M, especially in the first few weeks or so. So I do think you get a nice win there, but then the next couple of weeks, I got 2 home games against Tennessee and LSU. I honestly think if this team can upset a really good team this upcoming season, probably would be either Tennessee or LSU. Both games are at home, pretty favorable. But I do have you dropping both just because I do think both teams are going to be pretty strong this season. I just don't have enough confidence in Arkansas to be able to pick them in either. But Mississippi State go on the road there, get a nice win on the road. So you're 4-4 going into November. And you thought October was challenging. Well, November is even worse. Ole Miss and Texas, both of these teams could be top 10 teams when Arkansas plays them. Do think you drop both. And that's kind of the thing for Arkansas as well, is this team doesn't, I mean, they've got multiple tough home games. Ole Miss, Texas, Tennessee, LSU. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this team upset at least one of those teams as they have all 4 of those games at home. But once again, I just don't have enough confidence in the Razorbacks to be able to pick them in any of those matchups. Although Ole Miss is a team that I could see as maybe a little bit vulnerable, a beatable team potentially. But Texas, though, that's going to be a really challenging team this season. I think the Longhorns could definitely win the national championship, so I do think you drop that one for sure. Louisiana Tech, easy win. Mizzou on the road, you lost to them by quite a bit last season. I just don't see it happening this season either. So I do have this team at 5-7 this season, which I feel like is, I mean, considering the situation of this team and especially how tough of a schedule this is, I would say that is slightly optimistic. I mean, this is a 9 out of 10, I would say, on the strength of schedule, just because you're playing Texas, Ole Miss, both national contenders. Could probably throw Mizzou in there as well. Tennessee, LSU, kind of dark horses. And obviously, that doesn't include tough road trips to Oklahoma State or Auburn. So it's a difficult schedule for sure. And I do think if this team can get to a bowl game and win their bowl game, or even get to 7 or 8 wins this season, that's a really good sign for the future, I think, of Arkansas. And it's, I mean, especially with, once again, how challenging of a schedule this is. But for the range, I would say 8 wins is the ceiling for this team. I feel like if things go pretty well, this team could get to 8 wins, but I feel like if you want a pretty good ballpark is where I'm expecting, I think 5 or 6 wins. So kind of right on that bowl eligibility threshold is where I think Arkansas will be this season. I got 3-9 as the floor. That's in case things go terribly wrong, but I think that's pretty unlikely. I feel like this is a talented enough team to maybe upset a good team or two next season, but once again, with as difficult as things are, it's going to be tough to be competitive in the SEC this season. But with that, let me know your thoughts and comments below on Arkansas. What do you think of this team? And I appreciate you guys all watching as always. My name's Evan, this is All Sports Central. Stay tuned for more. We'll catch you on the next one.